Well, Hurricane Irene, Tropical Storm Irene, hit the eastern seaboard this weekend. Tens of millions of Americans fought wind, rain, floods. Democratic and Republican governors are praising the work of FEMA, the federal disaster agency. FEMA, as you know, widely criticized in 2005 for its response to Hurricane Katrina. But Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley says the agency is much better now. Former FEMA Deputy Chief of Staff Mark Merritt is with us. He is the president of Witt Associates. It's an emergency preparedness company, and he is joining us now from Atlanta. Mark, we were just talking before we came live here, you, Matt, and myself, and we were asking you, does the decision now to evacuate parts of New York City look like an exaggeration? Was that the right thing to do?
It's absolutely not an exaggeration. It was definitely the right thing to do. And for all those people that are second-guessing Mayor Bloomberg and the other local elected officials who've made those calls, the one thing I have to say to them is at least they're alive to second-guess that decision. If you've seen as many disasters as I have and the survivors of Hurricane Katrina, I bet they wish their mayor had called an evacuation a lot sooner.
Isn't it the case that, I mean, you're the expert, so I'm really asking the question, but New Orleans obviously was not in very good shape to deal with a storm like that, and it gets storms like that more often than we do. It doesn't seem that New York was very susceptible to disaster, even with a tropical storm coming up here.
Well, if you really look at the forecast and the track of that storm, the central pressure of that storm was one that would have supported a Category 3 hurricane. So if that storm had just varied a few degrees to the east, had not stayed over the Bahamas as long as it had, and not made landfall at Cape Hatteras, then that storm would have been much more significant, and Manhattan is at risk for significant storm surge. So the damage and the loss of life would have been much greater if we had not made the decisions that they did.
Mark, it seems from what we've been listening to weather experts say as well that from a technology point of view, it's still actually impossible to predict the intensity. You can, it seems, predict the path of a storm, but not the intensity at which it's going to hit.
Well, they're getting better every day. As you can see from this last storm, that they did a very good job predicting the direction and the track. However, the speed of the storm was something that has changed from time to time, and the actual intensity will change. But I think with the right amount of time, investment, and concentration, we'll even get the intensity worked out as well.
Mark, to your point, I mean, the people who are saying it was a non-event and maybe felt the inconvenience of having to move from their homes only to move back Sunday, as you point out, are alive and unharmed enough to complain about it. But what is the danger of any organization, FEMA, any state or local government, crying wolf, so to speak? Does that mean that those people who evacuated and are now home just ignore the next warning?
Well, it is going to be very difficult for those emergency management groups to ensure that the next time this happens that they have the attention of the populace has the trust in them to ensure that they evacuate when told. It will be a greater challenge in the future.
We also saw, obviously, public transportation shut down. Pretty much everything was shut down over the weekend. Is it going to take a long time to get that stuff back online? I mean, you're an expert on these logistics issues. How long will it take for everything to start rolling smoothly again?
Well, from the reports that I've been seeing, it's going to come back on pretty quickly because we didn't experience the significant damage to Manhattan and some of the other metropolitan areas. For example, the road networks that are hard to bring back quickly. If it's primarily buses and trains that receive damage, it's quick. And unfortunately for us, I think the local elected officials did the right thing. They closed those lines down quickly. They brought the trains, they brought the buses to a safe haven so that now that the storm is cleared and they can get the roads that were flooded drained, then you'll see that public transportation come back very quickly.
I mean, you know, I've seen highways that are still completely underwater this morning. You're saying they got the gear put away in time, which is fortunate because now it's going to work when we get the water off of the roads.
Absolutely.
What about the airlines? We saw so many thousands of flights canceled, and for people who are obviously had their flights canceled, they're going to be waiting a while. But when do they get back to normal? I mean, say you have a Wednesday or a Thursday flight. Do you think in these situations that they get things taken care of quickly enough so that people are on time a few days later?
Well, I think it will take time because there's only so many aircraft, there's only so many flight corridors in which they can use, so it's not something that you can just throw resources at. So I hope that everybody that has had delays in their travel plans, that they're patient and they understand that the airlines are going to want to get people home as quickly as they can as well as business leaders back to cities like New York, Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia.
Yeah, I met some tourists this weekend who are stuck in New York for at least another week, according to their account. Mark, thanks very much. Mark Merritt, president of Witt Associates, and is an emergency preparedness company. He is also a former official with FEMA, one of the people helping in the cleanup after Hurricane Katrina.